with a big stand like Stone Cold with a few beers. Play the game, I end the game, I'm champion, I'm Triple H. Undertaker, I'm your maker, bury the brother like Kane. Ooh, 1-3, hit the tombstone, hit the choke in my face. Ooh, yeah, like a macho heel, turn like hunter muscle. If you suffer like tomatoes, I'ma keep a couple models. Ooh, and you may call me HBK when I'm tuning up the vein, you best be getting in my way. Ooh, yeah, I'm degenerate, I love it, yes, I love it. If you ain't down with that, then I got two words for you, suck it. Too sweet, put your fangs up. Too sweet, holding up the cup. Let's be busy 23, got me feeling way too sweet.
Welcome everyone to your longest running Australian wrestling podcast, Wrestle Radio Australia. I'm your host, Todd Eastman. It is good to be here with you this week, guys. Took a week off because my guest this week, Punchdrunk Istria, we couldn't hook up times for doing the interview. So instead of just finding an interview, I thought I'll hold off. I had chicken salad coming out anyway, so thought I'd hold off so this week we could sit down and have a chat. And this is a really good, really fun interview. I'll talk about that in a minute. But first, I just want to say it is great to see the country starting to open up now, and wrestlers are starting to get back to training. There is stuff being announced. PWA is back December the 3rd at Max Watts. That's going to be great to see. I think Front Row is already sold out for that event at Max Watts. So it's amazing to see. It's great to see the support around the country and the support in New South Wales for PWA coming back. Renegades of Wrestling, a new promotion that is starting up with Mikey J and Chris Fresh, two guys that were synonymous with the glory days of MCW. They're starting up a new promotion that's going around nationwide. So it's going to be very interesting to see. And that will be in 2022. So I can't wait to see what they've got in store. Already announced some good names for their roster. So we'll see how that progresses over the time. Yeah, it's great to see stuff happening in Australia. It's great to see stuff happening up here in Queensland. Between when we talked last and now, we had, of course, Pro Wrestling League had their debut or re-debut show. 250 odd fans, I think, came out for their debut show or re-debut show, which was great to see them support Queensland wrestling. All the guys and girls in the back put on a really, really good show. It was a very, very entertaining show. I'm very proud of all the roster that put on a good show, I'm guessing. Of course, AJ Istria was one of those people in the main event with Tommy Knight, so we talk a bit about that as well. Before we do that, though, I want to just go over some stuff that's happening. I can't get into all the good stuff without talking about some bad stuff that's happened. Of course, today, as I'm recording it this morning, we got the news that ROH had released their whole roster. So that included Slex, Killian, and of course, my mate, Adam Brooks. Now, I had a chat to Brooksy earlier today, and one of the, you already know if you've heard him on here, he's one of the nicest guys going around. He is one of the most optimistic guys going around too. He's already like, look, happened, we move on. We'll find out what we're going to do. I'm not giving up. This is thing. So all the best to him, all the best to Killian, all the best to Slex. If you're a promotion or a promoter listening to me from overseas, you are missing out on three of the best talents you could possibly get in Brooksy, Kelly, and Slex. So get on them. Seriously, get on them, because they will do nothing but strengthen your promotion. And three of the best, not just in Australia, three of the best around the world that aren't being noticed at the moment. So they really should be. And hopefully one door closes, another door opens, and we'll see some good stuff happening for these people, because they, like I said, they deserve it. We'll talk about stuff that's happening this weekend. We've got stuff happening all around the country. We've got QWA in Pimlico, have Hardcore Halloween. Schwa in Perth have Hallowed Eve in Maddington. PWSA have Spooky Slam. And on Sunday in adults, PWSA, of course, in South Australia. On Sunday, RCW has End of Days at the Arca Bar. So get along, support Australian wrestling. We're opening up again. Everyone's putting on shows. Get out there and support them, guys. Yeah, but make sure you subscribe. Make sure to support us. Subscribe on WRA. It's free. You can do it on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify. Anywhere you get your podcasts from, you can get us there. If you're on the Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating and review. Helps us get inside more ears and helps with the algorithm. Also, if you're on YouTube, hit subscribe, hit the little notification bell so you know every time one of these episodes come up. Support the local industry as much as you can, guys. There's stuff going out all the time. If it's your promotions on YouTube, subscribe to that. If Australian Wrestling Network are putting up, actually they've only just put up this week the Pro Wrestling League show that happened a couple of weeks ago. So do go and watch that because it's really good. And yeah, you'll get to see all the stuff we're doing up here in Queensland. But yeah, Australian Wrestling Network, not a sponsor, but please do support them. That's it. If you want our Wrestle Radio Australia merch, Redbubble, search out Wrestle Radio Australia. All the funds that go to support that go to Gotcha for Life and Beyond Blue, two charities that we really do support. They do a lot of great things with men's health, and we do love that here at Wrestle Radio Australia. You know, it's touched us in many ways. So yeah, that is that. My guest this week is AJ Istria, or Punchdrunk Istria, I should say. We have it's a really fun chat because it's not just solely about like just his career. We talk about all ranging sort of things. We talk about stuff up here in Queensland. We talk about his grappling coach. We talk about stuff in Japan, his prospects going forward like that. We talk about what it's like being a coach and seeing the people that you're coaching succeed. A whole mess of stuff. And all of that is right after Views from the East, right here on Wrestle Radio Australia. Oh, just quickly, guys, because I'm an idiot, I forgot to give out our socials. Please follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at Wrestle Radio AU, Facebook, Wrestle Radio Australia, just look us up, and I'm personally at Beast Eastman. So there you go, there are our socials. Please follow us. We'll be back after this with Views from the East right here on Wrestle Radio Australia.
What have we just seen, Jesse?
And now Sammy fucking bring the hell out of Rapid! What is wrong with them? God damn it, I thought you were gonna be the voice of reason! Mark Cage has done the unthinkable!
Oh yeah, whoa. Look, they can never keep me down, I'm going. And if I ever fail, just know I'll go again. I never quit, cause I know that every loss may lead to another win. I'm going up. I bet when I land, they gon' tell me it's luck again. See that I'm winning, it's harder to watch. I'm setting the stage, you should give me my...
This Views from the East is something that I'll be honest with you. I was a little bit I was shocked to hear, to be honest, that we're in 2021, soon to be 2022, and there are still promotions out there that either aren't paying their workers to work, whether it's a nominal amount or anything. We're not paying their workers to work, or having their workers having their promotion connected to a school. So essentially having the workers pay you to train, and then you make money also off them off a show without giving them any money back, or even giving them a discount on their training fees. See, because I don't want to be a complete arsehole about this, because I know it costs money to run shows, and I know it costs, there's an outlay of money for venues, an outlay of money for this and that. But there is also a matter of your biggest asset being your workers, and you should look after your workers. And if you have a school that's attached to your promotion, and you know that you can't really afford to pay your workers for the show, which you should be able to, but you can't, so you could offer them discounted training rates, stuff like that in lieu, which I think that is a fair thing. If you can't pay them to wrestle, then you can say, look, can't pay to wrestle, but they'll take X amount off your training fees for this month. That could be another way to go. But to see or to hear that there are promotions around the country at the moment that do not pay their wrestlers to work, but then also take money off them to train, I think is tantamount to slavery, tantamount to ripping them. You are ripping off your workers. You are asking guys and girls to go out there every weekend and sacrifice their health, potentially sacrifice their health and well-being while it's something that they love and it's something that they want to do, you're also putting them somewhat at risk. They're putting themselves at risk to entertain a crowd that is paying you to see them. And I think that it's something that we should be really looking into. If you're a wrestler and you know this is happening in a promotion, then it's straight and simple. Tell the promotion that you want one or two things. You want either a discount on your training or you want to be paid to wrestle. And I know it's a whole thing where you hear sometimes a promoter go, well, you can't do that. I'll make sure you don't get booked anywhere else around the country or anywhere else around the state and all of this sort of thing. That is bullshit. To be perfectly honest with you, it's bullshit. If you're a good worker, you're going to get workplaces. Because the biggest asset, like I said, in professional wrestling is the wrestlers. And if you're a promoter out there who's making a living in ways off the backs of these people and not in any way paying them back, and exposure is not a way of paying someone back, giving them discount on their training or giving them, say, and here's the thing too, it's not even a huge amount. You could give someone $20 and 9 times out of 10, they're going to be happy because you are respecting what they're doing. You're saying, look, I can't afford to pay you much, but here, please have this. Thank you for wrestling for us. Thank you for working. You did a great job. Here's this. Well, you did a great job. You're doing a great job. Thank you for working for us. We're taking X amount of dollars off your training fees for this month. Now, I understand that the people go, well, our business wouldn't work like that. We couldn't keep going. We couldn't do it. Then you need to examine your business model. I'll say it again. Your biggest asset in any wrestling company is your wrestlers. You look after them and your wrestling company will be stronger. Now, that's my opinion. You're entitled to it. We'll be back after this with Smash. I keep saying Smash Mouth. I don't know why. For you that don't know, I've been recording this and I've probably taken about 2 or 3 takes, which is very much unlike me. We'll be back after this with Punchdrunk Istria right here on Wrestle Radio Australia.
At Moment of Truth, the prodigy, Tommy Knight, enacted his open match contract, challenging the Renegades once and for all to 4-on-4 competition. Now, live at the Dojo 10, the Renegades responded by viciously attacking Team Rampage, declaring that they would only show up to Final Showdown if the match was declared under no disqualification rules. So this time, management, Team Rampage, and the Renegades have finally come to an agreement on the match stipulation that will headline Final Showdown. Joey, Pat, and Greg Graham, and Wrecking Ball Will Gibson, the Renegades, will take on the team of the longest reigning Australian national champion, Rap Daddy, Corn Dog, Robbie the Lionheart, and the prodigy, Tommy Knight, in what will be the very first ever Monsters Gauntlet match. The rules or lack thereof for the Monsters Gauntlet are as follows. At the beginning, 1 participant from either team will begin in the ring. Every 3 minutes, a new competitor will enter the fray. Victory cannot be determined until both teams have completely entered the contest. But once that happens, either pinfall or submission. And finally, and potentially most importantly of all, there will be no rope breaks, no countouts, and no disqualifications. Remember, should the Renegades be successful, then Joey Graham will be granted a second opportunity to challenge Rat Daddy for that Australian National Championship. However, the stakes are just as high on the other side, as should Team Rampage finally put an end to the vicious Band of Brothers siege against Wrestle Rampage, Punchdrunk Istria will be reinstated and free to step back inside a Wrestle Rampage ring. Of course, the only way to find out either way is to show up to Final Showdown. Tickets are on sale through oztix.com.au, and while our front row allocation is almost exhausted, general admission is still available for the time being. So make sure to get your tickets in soon, otherwise you may just miss out on what is shaping up to be a chaotic conclusion to Wrestle Rampage's 2021. I'm Sean Thomas, and I'll see you November 6th, Cosgrove Hall, for Final Showdown.
Punchdrunk Istria, thanks so much for joining us tonight, mate.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Todd.
You are an absolute warrior, mate. Braved COVID to come up here for Pro League. How nervous were you about not being able to get back that weekend?
Not as nervous as I was the week before. The PWA show. that didn't end up happening. That was like, I didn't know if I was leaving 2 hours before my flight.
Wow. Yeah, because
So
that got
it all
cancelled.
ended up-
Like, yeah,
Yeah. So just in time, and then PWA were like, let's try and get the credits. We're looking at canceling. And I was like, sweet, as I'm just like there with my gear bag, just going, I wish I did my washing. Like back in the bag, but all worked out. The second week I wasn't as nervous, but yeah, so Pro Wrestling League, because things had calmed down a bit, but we still made sure that we didn't go anywhere except the venue.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I was at work the day that PWA cancelled, telling the boys at work, "Oh, you should come to this show. It's gonna be really cool." And then like, and it's off. Don't worry about it, boys. It's all good.
And it legitimately would have been. Obviously, not everyone's privy to what that show was meant to be, but I think it would have been a pretty fun show.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of Pro League, mate, how good was it to come up here and work in front of your hometown again? Because it's been a while since you've been up here and worked.
Yeah, dude, such a long time. That was honestly one of the most personally fulfilling things I've done in the last couple of years. Absence does make the heart grow fonder, but also just, and you would know as well, the amount of work behind the scenes and things like that that's been going on since COVID started. Industry has the old shake up, and the amount of work and behavioral changes and just the young guys that are coming through. I've never been more excited to come wrestle in Queensland, wrestle for a group that I believe in, truly believe in, and be able to do it against someone where when I left home hadn't even started pro wrestling yet. Tommy Knight hadn't even started pro wrestling yet. And then obviously he starts training. There's that bond that's developed, and to get to go back and show, especially my grappling coach Chris Foster, who I mention on shows quite often as a massive influence in my career, to show him my student.
Yeah.
That was special. That was so special on so many levels. And I think you can, if you go back and watch it and you see the closing promo, you can feel the passion and emotion there. That was just, I didn't know what I was going to say, and just said it. Just giving thanks to everyone. It was exciting.
Yeah, I've got to give a lot of credit to Bobby and Lucille for the work they've done up here with 3 Count all through the pandemic, just training, and with Mark Davis, and then having him come in and really help the guys. And you could see just from when Mark started to when he left to go back to England, just the improvement in that there's a special crop at 3 Count at the moment that are really good workers, and it's going to be really interesting to see how they go over the next 12 to 24 months.
Absolutely. It's so exciting, and I hope they understand how exciting it is and how much the rest of Australia has really been rooting for Queensland. They don't realize it, but a lot of the harsh criticisms over the years is because everyone wants Queensland to be better. Everyone wants it to be better. And, especially, for someone like David Storm, he's made remarks, myself, Bonza, everyone all around Australia. But it's because everyone just wants, and now that group has arrived. They've arrived. And I think the window of opportunity for these guys is going to be tremendous, because I truly believe they have the support of the whole country behind them. And they're still only young and developing. And a lot of that's also courtesy of Bobby and Lucille, taking over the reins because someone had to, and someone had to do it. Someone had to pick up the slack, and they took the gamble, and they knew they weren't qualified per se, but they sought out the people that were.
Yeah.
And
that's the biggest thing.
That's the key difference.
Yeah, in the past, it was always like you'd see someone open up a school and you'd be like, well, they can't really coach the guy. And they're insistent, no, I can do a good job. Whereas Bobby and Lucille would literally we need to find someone to help us. And I think Mark Davis saw the fact that they were looking and just wanted to help, and saw the young guys there that were young and they were hungry and wanted to work, And I think that inspired him more than anything else to go, yeah, I'll pile in with you guys and help you out.
It really did. I think it really became Davis's passion, like genuinely did, coaching those guys. And obviously, he's now going to go off and do his thing, like, as he was destined to do. But that was probably one of the most unexpected great things that could happen during the pandemic, was bringing him and all those guys together.
Yeah, and it's also good to see probably for him, because being sort of like stuck here would have been maddening for him. And the fact that he had this to channel himself into and possibly help himself get into good ring shape again to actually work, it was sort of like a marriage of two things. And maybe it even like reignited a passion for him, because yeah, the work he's done with those guys is so good.
No, tremendous. And no one's going to see it just yet, but they will see it soon.
Well,
the big thing about this group and Pro Wrestling League as a whole, I said it in obviously their private group chat, for the events.
Yeah.
But and I truly meant it. I've never had family and friends come to an event in Queensland and honestly say, for the show as a whole, we enjoyed the entire event. They would speak about other people. It's always been Rufio, Mark Davis, over the years, those key people where it's like, that's great, but unless those people are in special matches, it was next to impossible to drag them along to events, regardless of stories, regardless of anything, because people wanted good wrestling for so long, but they would have to sit through an hour and a half of lackluster entertainment to get to the genuine good stuff, because there has been great stuff in Queensland over the years. But, unfortunately, you would have to sit through something that wasn't too crowd shot. Whereas this was the first time where they were smiling and telling me about Yeet, Outback Adam. I wanted to buy a Yeet t-shirt. I'm like, yeah, did you watch my match, you assholes? Like, this is what you came for. First time ever, I'm saying, look at me syndrome. Come on, feed my ego.
But even that three-way with Adam, Saxon, and Solomon, that was Adam, who's been wrestling for maybe a year, 2 years. And then those two guys were pretty much, that was, if not their first match, it's the first of like a handful of matches. And they really, really put on a good show for that.
Yeah, they sure did. They put on such a good show for their skill level. You could almost be fooled into thinking, if you didn't know them, oh, that's three very experienced guys, wrestling a little bit down from their skill level. But no, that was three young guys putting on a match they had no right to be able to put on.
Yeah.
That was very, very well done.
That was like after the show, I said to Bobby, so how long have those two been working? They're like, oh, that was his first match. That was his like second or third match. I was like, Jesus Christ. So I'm just there. They are two exciting kids too. I think it's Saxon Turner and Solomon Blackwell. They are two exciting kids that I can't wait to see the future of those. I know Solomon trained at EPW before he came over. So that's a great platform right there.
I can gather, his story was he was almost EPW ready. And then he moved over to, which, as we know, if you're going to be EPW ready, you obviously know a thing.
You're ready. So. Yeah. So how do we explain what's been going on with you in Rampage, mate? You picked the possible worst time to put your career on the line, just when the world's opening back up again. And I know you're still
cheeky way to put myself into retirement.
You're like, what? Shows are coming back? Oh, I better put my career on the line here.
Yeah. Get a whole bunch of bookings in Melbourne and New Zealand and everything lined up. It was probably the best career move I've ever done.
But you're still training down at the dojo, aren't you?
Yeah. I don't stop. That's truly what I love doing. What I love doing, yeah. I think most people in the business also know that as well. I think I get more enjoyment out of the training than I do anything else. And so being there has been a good time.
Yeah. So there's because you've had a good break, there must be a lot of young guys champing at the bit around now to sort of break into the Rampage shows down there.
No, very much so. Like, and the cool thing is, like, and this is for us as well, is there's a lot of girls happening in South Australia, you know, which are really working hard. So that's exciting. Like, we got a group of girls coming through, and anyone that knows my training methods or just Wrestle Rampage in history, you would know the training is not easy. It's very traditional Japanese style. You know, these guys are working hard, and like, especially starting next year. So we've got a girl that will hopefully come through, you know, early 2022, we're predicting. You know, and I think them along with Lily Blaze and Delta, it's going to be very, very exciting.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like, the good and the sad, the bad thing is that it seems to be every time we get a really good female worker, they get taken. It's harder
Lily and
it's harder for the guys to get taken. Like, the girls just keep going.
I've almost mentally already said goodbye to them. You know,
yeah.
Go on.
Well, that's
go
like,
live my dream.
So, yeah. It's like somebody asked me the other day, like, who's the most surprising person that you've not seen leave the country yet? And I was like, Jessica Troy. I don't know how somebody has not picked up her and said, please come to America and here's all the monies. Because I don't understand that at all, because she's an amazing worker.
God,
You've worked
the longer we're in the business, the less sense it makes, but we have to pretend like we know what the hell is going on.
Because you worked her at Deathmatch Down Under, didn't you?
Yeah. That was another, like, COVID's been one of those things where I know for so many people are sad, they're depressed about their careers and things like that. I don't know whether it's because I'm romanticizing things more, because you never know when everything will shut down again, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm romanticizing things a bit more, but what I appreciate, like, every contest I have, and that Jessica Troy match was one that I was like, when I first got asked to do the tournament and they said, we're thinking Jessica Troy, I genuinely wasn't sure if I could make that weekend, but I specifically said, you make it Jessica Troy, I will clear everything, everything to be there. So I was super excited for that one.
Yeah, because that tournament too was a really good, a strong tournament with when you look over the whole, like, the entirety of the card, and to have you guys was in, I think, like, it was the first round matchup. I was like, whoa, that blows a lot of people's brackets if they were looking at it, because I would have thought those two, that's a semi-final match right there. But to have you guys as an opening, I think it was maybe, what was it, the first or second match on the card or something? It was really early in the show, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, I think it was like match 3 or 4, but it was a long card. They had a lot to
get done.
It was an ambitious 2 days.
But that's a good thing about Jess, though, is that she can work that style that you work, that the how would I say it? The sort of the catch wrestling style where you're trading holds and all that. There's not a hell of a lot of people that can do that and keep up in Australia at the moment. There's like Damien Slater. There's especially with your martial arts training as well. It must have been good to be able to get in there. Go, can you? Then she was just there for you.
Yeah. Well, the big thing is, like, a lot of exchanges are just, you can't spot a lot of the grappling exchanges, because you got to feel the moment. When's the time to strike? When's the time to advance? Because you got to anticipate the crowd and what they're buying into, and when to strike, when to move hold. So we can, you can discuss certain things, but at some point you just got to be able to wrestle. And so she's one person that can legitimately do that, which is beautiful. And she's got and what I loved about the match and the story we got to sort of tell, that I know, and full credit to commentary team. Who was it?
Andy Coyne.
Yeah, it was Andy Coyne and I forget who else, maybe Beach. But one of them, I know they alternate their second commentator quite often.
Yeah.
But Andy Coyne especially, that just in his ability to tell the story as well, was very much she's got a very pretty style in how she does everything. So much of her techniques is pretty, whereas mine's a lot more rough. And then as the match went on, Jessica Troy started to get more rough with me to the point where, she got on top and like had to really dig deep to get through because those pretty techniques just wouldn't work on me, especially with my size. So it was super fun to be able to tell a mat wrestling story on a death match show.
Yeah. So that's the thing, like, and I always say it because
neither of us have been there before, Todd. They had no idea who either of us were.
Yeah. See, that's the thing I like to qualify, because I'm straight out where I don't like deathmatch wrestling. I just don't. It's not for everybody, and I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
But the undercard of deathmatch down under is worth, like, for me, is something I will watch. I love, like, most of the matches that they put out is like, that's a match I want to see. That's a match I want to see. Don't want to see the death match, but that's a match I want to see. Do you know what I mean? So it's sort of like that thing where they're like, if you're not a deathmatch fan, I would still say get the show, because you're going to like the wrestling that's not the deathmatch. It's still
they're trying to do their own thing. I dig it. They're trying to just find their own sort of market, find their own thing. So, and it's cool to be different. Like I like when cities have different types of shows. It's good to see. Like MCW they have that traditional sports entertainment. Good to see. Who knows what Renegades will do? And it's great to have deathmatch down. I just do like this weird alternative where it's not full blown deathmatch, but it's something different that you don't get to see. So it's like you can enjoy all these different events.
Well, even like when you look at just Adelaide alone, between you and Riot City Wrestling, it's two sort of different styles of wrestling. Yours is very much the traditional Japanese sort of Ring of Honor-ish style, whereas RCW is probably more your wrestling that you could watch on TV, sort of AEW lightish, bit more entertainment, if I can say that sort of thing. But it's flavors of ice cream, and you don't get a lot of crossover with those two groups of fans. But the groups of fans you do, are the ones that love wrestling.
Yeah, no, it's very, very cool. Very, very cool, the different sort of styles. And it's good to see in Australia as well. Like, especially when you think about Australia, 15 years ago versus Australia now. Like 15 years ago, you would get the exact same show no matter where you went. Now it's very, very different. Everyone's got their own journey, their own flavor. Cool to see. Very cool to see.
Yeah. There's some shows I know that I've been on where I'll see guys that and I'll do all this little technical shit and they don't get anything from the crowd. And then we'll go out there and just do the dumbest things and get the massive pops. And we'll walk backstage and I'll just go, that's like, we did nothing out there. And so you got to work your crowd. You've got to read the room. How have you found that with your style? Because your style is very much Punchdrunk Istria. It's a straightforward. Is there times where you look at stuff, you'll start the match and you can see the crowd aren't buying and you go, it's time for us to go in a different direction here, mate?
More self-confidence than anything. So I'll subtly change what I do pending audience. Occasionally I'll put someone in a hold and then I can see that, they'll give them the old smack of the heel, and that always gets a good reaction from the kids and stuff, just keep them a little bit to engage them, but the thing is like, I will never go full blown how I enjoy to wrestle outside of Wrestle Rampage. Wrestle Rampage, like, fortunately the crowd have been taught this is what it is. But I can wrestle exactly how I want, and the crowd will bite. Like, a portion of the audience are massive MMA fans. It's just perfect for me and my style, and that's where I'll always shine bright. But I'll slightly change it to everywhere I sort of go. It's never going to be full blown, but you've also got to have self confidence that you know what you're doing, because if you can make mat wrestling digestible, anyone can enjoy it. You just got to make sure that everyone's telling the story properly and the people can digest it. No one's going to understand the nuances of it, but they will just enjoy it because they understand that there's a type of struggle, a type of struggle, emotion. But that doesn't mean that I can't do the full blown sports entertainment style wrestling. I just
No,
pick
we
and
know.
choose when I do it. If it's 18 plus, like anyone that knows my history in Queensland, you would know I did not wrestle how I like to wrestle.
No, we all know about Rufio's sister.
I think I spent most of my time just doing skits.
Speaking of which, have you seen Rufio lately? Like photos of him in England? Holy shit, that boy is in shape now. Like I even messaged him about it, like, you look amazing, dude. He's like, oh, thanks heaps. I'm like, holy Moses.
Yeah, rest of us all eating Snickers in COVID, and he's just eating chicken, rice, and broccoli.
Yeah, he looks really good. I'm trying to find where, because I know I've noticed lately he's starting to get on a lot more shows in England. So I just want to find like somewhere where I can watch it, because I want to see how he's progressed over the last couple of years, because there's been a sort of like everything's been shut down, especially in England. It was just as bad, if not worse, when it comes to lockdowns. So coming out of it,
there's two things that I saw from him that made me very, very excited for him. Obviously, like, it's no secret I played a big influence in him in his first few years, but he was training with the Hunter twins, which is exciting. Yep. So Jim and Lee Hunter, they're super unsung heroes of the UK scene. Obviously over there they're not, but as far as around the world goes, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But also Cara Noir, if that's how it's pronounced.
Yep.
Training with him, and that was an interesting combination that, hopefully he's done a lot of training with him. I just saw one clip where he was, and that makes me excited because, it's, Rufio loved a lot of the technical stuff as well. A little bit of high flying, but not too much, So I feel like he's mixing that along with the personality and theatrics of Cara. It'll be pretty interesting. I'm excited for him, man.
Because when you think about it, like, Rufio's had the most sort of diverse amounts of training, like New Japan Dojo in LA. Now he's over in England learning that sort of style. Started out with you learning like your style of wrestling. He's really like rounding out his game so much. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with him over the next like year or so, especially as England opens up more. There'll be more opportunities for him, especially through Europe.
Absolutely, man. And like before, obviously COVID hit so soon after he got over there, but he had done the WXW. When I was on my way back, he was on his way there, and we had a little bit of crossover, But he's done some stuff with them, And so once Europe and UK opens up a bit more, I hope he gets to go to there, make the OTT shows, things like that. And he's such a sweet kid. No one can hate him. So
no.
So it's just a matter of when, really, as long as he's putting in the work, which, let's be honest, we all know he is.
Yeah. How does it feel for you as a trainer when you see guys like Rufio, guys like Tommy Knight, you got Corn Dog, you got Rat Daddy, all of them really just breaking out? That's got to be like a whole different sort of sense of pride that you sort of maybe didn't experience as just wrestling yourself. It's a whole different feeling, really.
It's super, super, super different. But like, it's funny watching them all because I can see personal like they get the benefit of not just like what I know, but what I know hasn't worked, if that makes sense. All the mistakes that I've made, whether it be personal, professional, anything, like seeing them be able to skip past all those and see how good they've gotten in such a short period of time. That's what's beautiful to me. But it's not just me, it's also the stories of my peers, my friends, my coaches. They're the beneficiaries of everything Jag's been through, Jonah Rock's been through, Slater's been through, Robbie Hart, all those guys. They're the beneficiaries of, and for me, what Chris Foster imparted on me, what all my experiences in Queensland, like having to learn when I had no one to learn from. All these different journeys. So seeing that's probably the most exciting thing, because you see them do one little thing and you just go, that's Havoc, or that's,
Yeah.
that's Jag 101,
Yeah. I remember when we first, when Demi was first over doing the what's the name? The Cup. Can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. She would do a few things, and I actually would see her do like a Cream mannerism or a Maddie mannerism. I'm like, that's just Maddie. You just did Maddie. Stop doing that. But tell me more about, like, with you talked to Chris Foster before. Was it sort of, did you move into training with him because there wasn't really other training to do up here when you were?
Yeah. So the story with that one was I had started coming to Wrestle Rampage a lot. So at some point during my years in Queensland, I was starting to understand what we were doing wasn't correct. Through no fault, and we've gone on the record saying this a lot. And I think we even spoke about it a little bit when I was up in Queensland last. But everyone had the best of intentions at all times. It's just people didn't always know the best way to go about stuff. And I think at one point I just kind of looked at the stuff I was watching and just going, this doesn't match up. Then I started doing a lot more research, and I'm super analytical person. So, I look at resumes, I look at things like that. And so after going around, I see this Hartley Jackson guy whom I've slightly heard about, but, I watched as he was over in New Japan. I watched as he was doing 0-1. I was like, why don't I just message him? Like, I'll just message him. And then, after a little bit of back and forth, because I wasn't a yes right away, as everyone knows, Jag's very selective on who he lets into his dojos to train and things like that. Super traditional. I had to earn it, and I did earn it, through wrestling on the East Coast and stuff. And I would come back to Queensland, but it was almost like the personality clashes sort of, it wasn't sort of suiting in the sense of, I wanted to work on what I was learning down in Adelaide, but people weren't really picking up what was being put down at the time. And so I thought, well, look, I can't continue training here. It's not a positive environment for me. And then I started thinking of all the people that I loved, like the Brian Danielson, especially at that time of his career. And I thought about an interview he did where he wanted to improve his grappling game and things like that. Now, I wasn't a grappler at this point. I was just a dude doing stuff. I would do comedy more than anything. But Danielson started training extreme couture and things like that to get better. And I was like, that's so interesting to me. It was so interesting. But I had the benefit of my brother being an Olympic gymnast. So he passed on a lot of guidance over the years that, he doesn't understand pro wrestling whatsoever, but certain things in high level sport does transfer over in the mentality of how to get good at something. And his thing was don't copy the person, copy your mentor, copy your, try to understand the journey they went on to be the person they were. So I went, well, if he's doing that, I'm just going to do the same thing, because then I will learn, how he became who he was.
Yeah.
And I was also getting the crap kicked out of me down in Adelaide. Like they do sparring and everything. I was getting beaten from pillar to post. So that's pretty humbling. So I was like, that's it. I got to learn how to fight. So I went to a local gym in Geebung, which is near where I was living. So it wasn't anything in particular. It was strictly local. That's why I picked them. And it was just a match made in heaven. Chris Foster was there coaching the jiu-jitsu class. And I went in for a free trial. And I got there early. Always get there early. Always be the last to leave. So I got there early. I was sitting down. I was listening as he was talking to someone else. And he was saying about how he just went to a pro wrestling class. And I was like, oh no. So he went to a pro wrestling class that was taking place in the backyard of someone's house at the time. And obviously he's smart enough to know this is all a load of crap, but he was under the impression this was temporary. The ring is temporarily here. You and me, Todd, both, mate. The ring was not temporary.
Yeah. Temporary lasts a fair while sometimes.
Yeah. So he was there, and then he was saying about how a few little things, and he comes off as a very, very intimidating individual, but he's actually a super positive guy. So he likes to see the best in things, despite his voice and demeanor looking like he wants to kill someone at every possible instance. And so I was listening to him talk about that, and I was like, I thought, I hope he doesn't recognize who I am or anything like that from the local team, like if he's watching, and because I was just trying to, I didn't want to get involved because, it wasn't a falling out as much as it was just I just can't be here anymore. And I think everyone involved understood that as the years went on.
Yeah.
Definitely as the years went on, and certain people got involved in the business and stuff. I think everyone understood where I was coming from. And we won't even mention those names, but you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Just checking my blood pressure right now. It's all good.
So I think as the years went on, people understood. But so I didn't want to get involved, didn't want to say anything. And at the end of the class, I heard him talk about it again. And it was something, I forget exactly what it was. I think it was something to do with running the ropes or something. And I knew the ring he was in. I knew everything. I knew he was being taught wrong. And so I just said to him, hey man, try doing this. That way you end up a certain way, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm a pro wrestler, man. I don't know who's teaching you that. I overheard that. I just want you to be safe. And then I tried scooting out of there so that way he would just not so much question it as much as he'll just, at the very least, he'll take it in his head so that way next time he's there and they're trying to teach him whatever, he might at least just think, who the hell was that random guy that said this?
He wanted me to be safe.
Yeah, and so he barreled me up before I could walk out and goes, wait a minute. And he's gone, I was watching a match of yours on YouTube just the other day. And then he's gone, and then he goes, we exchanged contact information. And then pretty much from there, we just started doing pro wrestling and MMA. So and he had a dream to know if his life was different and he fell into pro wrestling and not MMA, would he have been able to do pro wrestling? That's all he wanted to know. He just needed that answer. So I taught him pro wrestling, and in return, he taught me how to fight. And so it was just one of those collaboration match made in heavens. And he did manage to get that match and find out. And I think everyone can speak of it was a resounding yes. He would have been great.
Well, I was going to say, like, he was sort of ahead of the curve because now pretty much anyone who's an MMA wrestler, once they retire, sort of look towards going, maybe I should do pro wrestling for a couple of years.
Yeah, let's go, Junior.
Yeah. So yeah, it must be good to have, like, I always tell guys to try and learn as much stuff from as many people as possible because it just adds more tools to your toolbox, so to speak.
Exactly right.
For you learning that whole grappling thing and then probably going down to Rampage and now as a trainer, being able to teach people that as well. Do you ever get something where like you're trying to teach someone something and they're like, well, I'm never going to use this? Then you have to go, well, you don't know. You might have to.
It's more just the what I tell, like, one of the things that our guys, they certainly understand it, but what I also preach is, it's almost like, so we're teaching them to be the best version they can be, but it's not just that. We're trying to teach them to be the best they can possibly be in the worst possible scenarios. So it's when you're not always training for best case scenario, the worst case scenario can and will happen. How will you handle that? What will your attitude be? Can you handle yourself? Can you maneuver someone? Can you do all these things? And I think that's something that's actually overlooked a bit in wrestling. But that's something that we preach. And, you know, it's not about getting into a fight with someone. It's about when someone's panicking or if they're moving around too much and stuff, and you need to slow them down. Can you hold them there and minimize your energy expenditure?
Yeah.
You know, can you show that struggle? You know, there's a lot of, I could talk about this for hours, so I probably won't ramble too much. But there is so much transfer between grappling and pro wrestling than what meets the eye. What meets the eye. There's so much. You know, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what style of wrestling you're doing, you're still portraying a contest between two people.
Yep.
And there's something special about being in the contest and knowing what a contest feels like.
That's my big thing at the moment that I think it gets under my skin, is that you look at, and I know it happens a lot in Japan, the style, but I just hate the whole forearm trade-offs at the start of a match. And like they go, why do you hate it? I said, well, because ideally if this was real, wouldn't you do everything you can to not get hit? Because I know I would. Like, please don't hit me with that forearm, Mr. Suzuki. It's like the last thing I would do.
Yeah, something like that's definitely just a part of it. It's a cultural thing, you know. So sometimes people misunderstand that aspect of it. You know, when something's a cultural thing in a certain place. Obviously, I'm way more in depth with Japanese than I am, you know, other countries. If you put me in Mexico, I would be the most confused person. I would be telling everyone, today's maybe my 8th match. I don't know what's going. Obviously, I try my best, but I can understand that would be a weakness for me because I may not understand the nuances of what works there and why. You know, but over there, absolutely. So, but it's funny, like, and again, it's different tastes in how people portray certain things. You know, like the forearm trails. That's, you know, it's evidently not your cup of tea. It's also.
I love it. I love it when it's like. I love it when it's like in the middle of a match, and they've worked to it. It's like when you're fresh as a daisy and you're like, "Oh, hit me!" I'm like, I would never do that. Please don't hit me.
Yeah, so it just depends on context. But one person though who definitely doesn't believe in it, the master Yuki Ishikawa. He is the Battle Arts founder. You know, super traditional, strong style. Like we're talking their lineage is Gotch. You know, so he I remember it was Tim Thatcher, myself, and someone else training with him, and he was just telling us just all about how his belief in the 1-2, stupid fucker, and yeah, he's going, why if you rip to the midsection, you know. So his was very much, you know, and then you defend and then you come back when you find opening. But you need a lot of training to be able to pull some of the stuff he says off. Like the Battle Arts guys they were special. Then UWFI, stuff like that. That's a whole different set of specialties. But
speaking of that, have you watched
it's interesting.
Have you watched the last G1 show with Shibata and Zack Sabre Jr. where they did the UWFI 5-minute round?
No, I haven't watched it yet. No.
Very nice. It was so good.
I watched the entrance and went.
Yeah, I lost my shit. I lost my shit when it happened. I'm like, oh, okay, he's coming out to have a promo, and then you saw the towel and he was in gear. I'm like, he's not, is he? And I was like, straight away messaging one of my mates, going, get on to New Japan World right now. Seriously, get on there because I love Shibata. Love Shibata.
That was one of those moments where if it wasn't for COVID and the Japanese fans could truly make noise and that arena could truly be full, that would have been one of potentially the greatest all-time moments in history. People would have been crying, people would have been hollering, I think that would have been 5 minutes of non-stop noise.
Yeah, it's like, because somebody asked me to quantify it in a way with other Japanese things. I said, look, Probably up there with when Hayabusa got up out of the chair that time.
Oh,
When no one knew he could, you know what I mean? It's that same thing when he came out and he was going to wrestle. And then at the end of it, say, oh, next time I'm in the ring, I will wrestle a match. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, that was iconic. That was something else.
So is that like is that like still a dream of yours to be over in Japan and be able to do sort of that? Because you see what Robbie's doing over there now. Like, well, I think, was he calling himself now Bobby Two Belts? And the fact that he has opened that door now well, opened it more than what was open before for Australian guys to be able to get over there and really prove themselves. That's got to be somewhat of an incentive for you to really push to try and make that sort of thing happen.
Absolutely, man. Like when I say like I've got a big passion for coaching right now, that doesn't mean I've neglected my own. I'm permanently in the ring with guys. I think that's what separates me from a lot of people is that I do every rep. I still do a lot of the traditional young boy training. I'm still doing hundreds of squats, doing all my burpees, doing everything. There's still plenty of stuff that I want to accomplish and want to do. I feel like I've got unfinished business over there, very much so. I want to show the best version of me I can possibly be. But it doesn't necessarily have to be New Japan in the sense of that being the dream.
No.
There's a lot of the other places I've grown to love, traditional Japanese pro wrestling. And yes, it has evolved over the years and things like that. But there's certain things starting to pop up over there where I wonder, how would I go and bleat? I know they're only just starting up, so it depends on how the promotion sort of goes. How would I go and bleat? What would that look like? Noah's changed ownership since I was there. So obviously it would be a bit of a process to try to negotiate, talk my way. Please take me back. But what Noah's doing now is tremendous. I think coming out of COVID, like Noah will be number 2. For many years they were 4 or 5 on the pecking order. But the stuff they're doing now is incredible. People need to be watching. Their roster is incredible. Again, 01, that was the place where I got my first opportunity in Japan. I'd love to go back there just to show who I am now. They saw a young kid that I genuinely didn't know what I was doing. I was given that opportunity. Obviously they thought I was ready, but I was certainly given that opportunity where I can honestly say I'm sitting there with a younger, all these guys were younger, but this was the group of people that I was with. John Gresham, Joe Coffey, Jordan Devlin, Sean Guinness, Jason New, he was in the Cruiserweight Classic, now Dragon Gate full-time. These were the guys that I was just hanging out with. Everyone got to go on to do special stuff. There was a few others as well, that certainly, their careers have been just as great. Just maybe not the social media sensations of the big companies, but yeah, I'm there with them, and I'm just going, and really I was a FIFO wrestling training. I didn't have the best of, this was the first time I had 3 months straight proper pro wrestling, doing the job. And I'd love to almost repay them for that, in the sense of showing this is what you created, because I got that opportunity when I was too young.
Yeah.
Your influence helped me. Like Hidaka's influence has helped generations. And so I'd love to get back in there and wrestle Otani, Tanaka. And, they still, whenever I've been over there for other tours, Tim, because my name was Tim Edison. They all know me. I don't care if I have to go back over there as Tim Edison again. Like I would happily rebrand completely and go back over there just to show them who Tim Edison is now. A lot of personal things. When you take the idea of main eventing WrestleMania out of it, you realize people have got to dream bigger than WWE. There's so much more out there to accomplish, even if you just got to romanticize about it to yourself. But there's a lot of stuff I want to do. And that country, I need to be back.
Yeah. See, you mentioned like Jonathan Gresham before. Like, I could see you very easily sliding into like that pure division of Ring of Honor as well with your style. Is like America something too that because a lot of times now in America, there's a lot of places that you can go and do your style of wrestling and really make a name for yourself. Like, I could see you doing a blood sport. Do you know what I mean? I could see like all of that sort of thing. MLW would be right up your alley as well. Are those things that also like you're like, I wouldn't mind trying that?
Absolutely. But with America does come certain complications, you know, so obviously I'm not willing to tempt certain visa issues.
Yeah.
So I would need the right opportunity, and it is possible. It is possible, you know, through a lot of these companies now. They are big enough to get, you know, visas, you know. So it's not completely out of this world possible. You know, other Australians have gotten it. So it's certainly something I would definitely love to do. Like anyone, you'd love to wrestle anywhere, but you know, I'm starting to get very specific in what my goals I want to be. And if an opportunity were to come up where exactly what you said, that's the dream, right? You know, to have those specific places. Absolutely. If I could get that opportunity, I would certainly like jump at that. You know, but there's certain other opportunities I think are definitely more realistic with my contacts and with people up my alley, and that's what I'm going to pursue. But if something like that came up, hell yeah, I'd jump at it.
Also, with Japan, they're more open to you being able to sort of stay in Australia and then go over and do your tours and then come back to a sort of Australia, which really is probably the dream scenario for you, because you could come back, help with Wrestle Rampage, still wrestle some of the places around here, go over to Japan and live your dream, then come back, do this sort of stuff. It would probably be the dream scenario for you, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Like I, you know, you watch, you know, the Fergal Devitt's and the machine guns and stuff like that, you know, as they were coming up through New Japan, you know, in those years. If you've ever seen the Fergal Devitt documentary before he got signed to WWE, it's an absolutely brilliant and fantastic watch. But the cool thing about that documentary is you saw his lifestyle in the sense of he was at home, he wrestled around his local places, you know, he had his friends, you know, and then he went over to Japan and handled business, you know, and then he got to go back and, you know, have fun, you know. Like, Australia's a growing business, but ultimately it's a lot of people having fun with something they're passionate about, trying to build it into something special. And, you know, there's something so special about that. You know, everyone has their own home in Australia, and it's beautiful to see, because like I hope everyone has that emotional attachment that I have to the Wrestle Rampage dojo, you know, wherever they are, because that's brought so much to my life, you know, and bigger than wrestling. So to be able to like return home and go somewhere would be tremendous. Doesn't mean I'm not willing to move for the right opportunity. Hell yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it in a heartbeat, but you know, opportunity's got to be right.
Well, you got an opportunity. Well, your team's got an opportunity on November 6th to get you back into Wrestle Rampage. You got a massive main event for that. It's what was the match called again? Because I'm just scrolling down.
So the Monsters Gauntlet.
There we go.
Monsters Gauntlet.
So you got Rat Daddy, Prodigy, Tommy Knight, Corndog, and Robbie the Lion Hart on your side, or fighting for you against the Renegades.
Well, hopefully. I don't want to have to move home, man. Mum's excited this Christmas that I'm going to be home for good. It's not on my list of things to do.
Although we wouldn't hate having you up here, especially for Pro League, and I'm sure Bobby wouldn't mind you around 3 count. So we never know. I might actually, I might be on the other team for a split second, just for my own sake. I got someone else that's grizzled and angry like me.
Pro Wrestling League's home as well. I've made that one very clear.
But yeah, that looks like it's going to be a great card. It's good to see that the Rampage are getting back into having shows again, and you're at the Cosgrove Hall again, which is great.
Yeah, Cosgrove Hall. That's so special to the history of our events, which probably doesn't mean as much to the audience as much as it does to the people involved in the business. But for us, that's our Corrigan Hall. That's that venue where memories were made generations before you, and you feel obliged to uphold that and push it forward. So now there's a new generation back there that didn't experience it. You've got the Grahams and Wrecking Ball and Robbie Hart and stuff who were a part of the original Cosgrove Hall, that have all these historic things, that Mikey J's starting to upload to Oz Wrestling Net, some iconic events. And, so now it's a new generation getting to make those memories for themselves. And there's something about just the high roof, the acoustics. It's just very special. And they finally have air conditioning, which I'm most excited.
Air conditioning. What are you talking about? You're in Adelaide. Calm down, mate.
Hey, January, you want that air conditioning?
I know, because for me, when I started training in Adelaide, my dream was always to someday work a Thebarton theatre show. It was always that. I never got the chance to, but it was always the dream. So I guess for you guys now, Cosgrove Hall is sort of that place for the Rampage guys.
Cosgrove Hall's home, but anyone that knows Noah, the journey back to the Budokan, similar for us, the journey back to Thebe. So after COVID, it's one of those things everyone's going to be working hard towards.
Mm.
So, but in the meantime, Cosgrove Hall's special.
Yeah, mate, it's been great catching up with you. For people that want to follow what Punchdrunk Istria is doing, mate, how can they do that?
Now, Punchdrunk Istria, Instagram, Twitter's at AJ Istria, but honestly, it's mostly just me making fun of the UFC on a weekend and occasionally hanging shit on Jude London. So for the most part, Punchdrunk Istria on Instagram, at AJ Istria on Twitter. And then, like everyone else, I have a Facebook page that I just don't like to use. So one day I might update it, but don't follow me on that.
You've also got a wrestler merch, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I think Jack's organised that. Yes.
I'm trying to say your gimmicks here, mate, and you're killing me.
Bless you, sir. Bless you. Someone's got to do it. So I'm when people say they're the last of the dying breed, I'm definitely of that bridging generation where it was, do we want to get into social media or do we not want to get into social media? And I'm definitely one of those last people where it's like, I understand its importance and I preach it to all my guys, be professional and stuff, but definitely be more active, build that fan base. But at the same time, man, I see some of the social media interactions and I just go, what the hell? So me and the internet, not the world's best, but fortunately I have a lot of people like Jax that look out for me and try to keep me young.
Yeah, it's like I had like Alex Redneck Kung Fu just go say to me, because if you really want, dude, I'll design you a t-shirt so you can sell it. And I was like, no one's gonna want to buy my t-shirts. It's kind of my aim for no one to want to buy a t-shirt of mine. She's like, oh, I kind of respect that. I'm like, thanks.
I thought that, and then I've always joked, why would I sell my own t-shirt, especially to Jonah? And I said, why would I sell my own t-shirts, bro? When I can just bootleg one of yours out the back and undercut you $5. And then he goes, if you don't do it, I will. And then it became apparent that he was genuinely going to sell my t-shirt at Rampage events and elsewhere, and then just collect the money. And I thought, I probably should get on top of this because, that's the type of friendship where he can go ahead and do it and I won't do anything about it. You're not going to hear me complain. I'll just laugh. So I thought I better do it. Otherwise he might make that money.
I know I still got to get off my ass and buy that, the Ultimate Fighter one that you've got. Yeah. I love that shirt.
Yeah, that was sick.
As an
That
Ultimate
was
Fighter
such a sick
mark,
retro. That was I'm trying to think of what I just know him, Chase Griffin, the ex-EPW wrestler, but that was him that designed that. And then UFC had an anniversary event and used their old branding. But at the time when he first did the design, like no one had thought about that old school one. It was niche as hell, and I was looking forward to it.
I remember because I messaged you like, are you bringing those shirts up? He's like, you're like, nah, I'm not this time. I'm like, shit. Mate, it's been.
I ended up finding a couple in my bag.
All right. Oh God. Mate, it's been great catching up with you. Thank you for spending the time, and good luck on November. Was it November the 6th? Yeah, November 6th. Good luck on November the 6th, mate. Hopefully, you'll be back in Wrestle Rampage.
Yeah, man.
If not, I'll see you up here, I guess.
I hope so. Hopefully it's a big 2022 for me, but I could be unfortunately spending November 7th at a certain beer hall instead.
Thanks a lot, mate.
No worries, bud. You have a good one.
Sweet, too sweet, yeah. Too sweet, put your fangs up. Too sweet, pour another cup. Let's be busy 20